This is the presentation about accessibility, and I've been waiting for some time for Fabian Schmid to finish his report on the file storage, and now I'd like to give a quick presentation about the status of and the way forward with regard to accessibility. I'll try to watch the comments. I report in my role as a co-chair of the special interest group Accessibility. We founded the group in December 18. We now have 83 members and the numbers keep rising. We meet online once a month to discuss the little pet projects we've identified to move accessibility forward. I added a link to the group you can't click right now, but I uploaded the presentation underneath the agenda in the development conference wiki, so you could just take yourself a copy of this presentation and then follow the links, because there are some more links included in this presentation. This is a screenshot of our group. So this group is chaired by Katrin Köhler of the, now this gets difficult, it's a university specialized in care, Heilpädagogik, care pedagogy, I'm sorry, Katrin, and Hans-Jörg Launer from the University of Bern. And this is where we keep the protocols, where we link to the virtual classroom, and the next meeting will be 8th of April. We set ourselves a few shared goals, and I'll start with the least important, so to speak. It's about we want to prepare handouts for tutors and professors how to prepare accessible content to upload into ILIAS. So we're talking about PDF, about slides, about Word documents, about videos, about audio files, that kind of material. We would like to prepare handouts, how to prepare ILIAS native content in an accessible fashion. So there are some do's and don'ts to take to heart when working with ILIAS. We have worked on the accessibility guidelines to make them compliant with WCAG 21AA. And we want to start WCAG 21AA compliance testing and hopefully finally certification. We split this in two tracks, let's say. So on the one hand side, we do testing and fixing for ILIAS 5, because we are aware that many people will keep using ILIAS 5 for quite a while, and so we want to improve the accessibility of that running system with a big installed base as good as it gets. On the other hand, we focus on testing, fixing, and certifying ILIAS 6. The first one, as I said, is the least important of our goals, because there are a host of handouts available from very different sources. So turning to Google and typing in how to make a PDF accessible will deliver you with quite a lot of material that you could reuse, repurpose, or hand out to your teachers and tutors. So that should be helpful, and this is why this is the one issue we focus on least. The other thing is we want to prepare guidance on how to work with ILIAS itself, and how to work on preparing accessible content using ILIAS. So this is why we prepared a handout that outlines a bit about why people would need alternative text, subtitles, and audio descriptions, so you actually can better understand what kind of value you should deliver writing those as text. We offer specific guidance on preparing good alternative text, like some do's and don'ts, and we introduce the different kind of pictures that would need different kind of alternative texts. We wrote an instruction on how to prepare subtitles for videos. You can upload video subtitles after you uploaded your video and enrich your video with them, and how to prepare audio descriptions as well. Again, I included a link to this handout, and I uploaded these slides underneath the agenda wiki page for today's event, so you can just download my slides and then follow the link. But I also included a screenshot of some of the pages of this document. We published it under a Creative Commons license, so you can just rip off the logo, give it your own CI, and reuse and repurpose it at will. This is just to give you a glimpse of what we prepared. Different types of pictures, specific issue, always diagrams, screenshots of ILIAS. Where do I upload? Where do I enter this kind of information? And this document is roughly 6 pages long. We purposefully kept it very short and crisp, so your tutors or teachers don't feel overwhelmed by it. If anyone would like to have an English version, I'll be glad to prepare it. Our next issue is accessibility guidelines. We set out as a group to update the existing ILIAS accessibility guidelines, and again, I included a link to the guidelines and the appended cheat sheet because I would like to present screenshots of it. So the accessibility guidelines are kept in GitHub. Link is included on the previous slide. So you can see here now we have the preamble, the accessibility guidelines, and for every guideline there's a reference to the WCAG 2.1 and the European standard EN 301549 and the specific number of the rule. Then there are success criterions, and I linked to resources of the WCAG where you can educate yourself about what is intended by this, how is this meant, and how could this be implemented. So we always have a link for every individual guideline that helps you understanding the requirement, and another link that allows you to educate yourself about how to technically meet that requirement. To be honest, this is a long guideline. It's like an arm long and a hard read. It's a very dense text, and we figured this might be not welcoming enough. And so we prepared a cheat sheet, a Spickzettel in German. And with this cheat sheet, you have a lot less text. We prepared like 40 sentences, and these sentences are easy to understand, very specific, and should help you to taking in what's required, understand it in a very practical, down-to-earth way. What do I have to do now with this? What's required? Hopefully the cheat sheet is free of a lot of the lingo, and yeah, we think it would be a good starting point for anybody who has some ILIAS background to get into the requirements of accessibility. So I would recommend reading this as a starting point. Yeah, what we did is we started testing ILIAS 5.4, and we found a lot of contrast issues. So the Delos skin was not very accessible, and Enrico Zensen has prepared a much more accessible skin. We offer the skin for download, and you could think about uploading it to your ILIAS 5.4 installation and offering it to students that use assistive technology and have specifically sight issues. Um, so they can better perceive the system. And we also prepared a test platform where you could inspect the skin before making such a decision. Michael Jensen, gracefully as ever, has fixed a terrible mailbox. The mail was very inaccessible, and this is fixed now, and the mail is easy to read for a screen reader by now. We are legally required to publish information on accessibility of any technological package we use to address ourselves to the wider public, and so you need a text for this, and this text is not so easy to write. As a group, we started working on it, and maybe this is not the final and best version, but this is where we are at now, and maybe it would be a helpful starting point for any of you who want to create this kind of information for their own platform. If you have any comments on this or would like to feedback anything to us, we'll be grateful. And you can otherwise just use this text, adopt it to your circumstances, and upload it to your platform. Altogether, ILIAS 5.4 has an okay accessibility. Major known issues are ILIAS generated PDFs and obviously drag and drop questions. But you can, in all honesty, take some approach to configuring ILIAS 5.4 that you should be able to pass accessibility tests mostly. So I'm quite content with that, and we made some fixes, and we've found bugs. We are still finding bugs, but we're at it, and altogether it's okay-ish. Now I'll share some screenshots. The first one is a screenshot of the special interest group accessibility, and we have our first goal, testing and certifying ILIAS 6. And there is a first paragraph bundling up the resources I just mentioned. So we have on the one hand side the info on accessibility for ILIAS 5.4, where you could, which you could take as a starting point for preparing your own text for your own institution. On the other hand, on the next slide, I share the Jesus Mustererklärung, the standard form for making a legal statement about the accessibility of your own platform. So you have one document that's geared towards people who actually use assistive technology to provide them with information how to make most of your system. And on the other hand side, you need a document geared towards authorities who require you to make a formal and official statement upon the accessibility of your platform. And this standard form, you could just delete everything in the brackets, replace it by your own name, and then select whatever sentence is fine for you, PDF it, upload it, and then you should be fine. This document is the best we found. It's coming from the European Commission. They advised to use this one, and we found different kinds of documents like this, and this is by far the best. So we liked it and advise you to start working from this one. And on the right hand side, you can see the accessible ILIAS 5.4 skin that Enrico has prepared. Thank you. And so if you would like to inspect that one, I included a link so you could have a look at it. On the other hand, you could just download it, install it, and play around with it on your own. Community testing. We prepared a new test suite that's dedicated to accessibility. We started writing the test cases, rearranging them, rewriting that. That was a bit of a challenge. The test suite is now has become a part of the official ILIAS standard test cases, and this was for us in the group a big step forward in mainstreaming accessibility issues in ILIAS standard development. So we want to become this topic a normal issue like performance or something like that in the throughout the development process. And so we prepared the test cases. They are currently tested by the Lucerne University of Applied Sciences and Arts in Switzerland. Thank you for contributing your time and considerable knowledge about accessibility. So Christina Auerswald, who's testing this, has quite a bit of background in accessibility. And she steadily worked herself through the system using her understanding of what's required on the one hand side, and on the other hand side using browser extensions to unearth issues. And she produced a deluge, literally, of small and repetitive issues. And so we're working together because I didn't want to swamp or tsunami Mantis with all these little things. They need to be fixed, but most of them can be fixed in one place maybe, and then things would get better in other places. And so I'm trying to do some triage for the bugs coming out of this test suite. We obviously still have the big issues that we inherited from ILIAS 5.4. So ILIAS generated PDFs are a joke. It's terrible. I once had them read out to me with a screen reader, and they include a lot of like dollar signs. The semantics of a headline is not kept. Everything is treated like normal text, just in one row, droning on. And yeah, there are snippets of special characters included that don't show up in the written text but show up in the read out text of the screen reader. We have a screwed headline scheme. It was bending on broken with ILIAS 5.4, but with the changes of the page layout revision, it burned a hole into our headline scheme, and so this would need fixing at some point. And obviously the drag and drop issue persists. I included some screenshots of our accessibility test suite too. So we have started on two very important features that were developed to improve the accessibility of ILIAS 6. This is a feature that allows a person using assistive technology that runs into some kind of key trap or a keyboard trap or the like. They can just turn to the footer, hit a button, a mail is directed to a designated point of contact for dealing with accessibility issues. The permanent link to that place where the issue arose is included into the mail. They can just say, this does not work for me, this is my issue, hit send, and they have notified the person in charge. The person in charge of accessibility then has a mail with knows the sender, knows which page this issue came from, and can start dealing with it. And on the other hand, we can include the information on the accessibility that we talked beforehand technically. So we have a created a place for it in the footer. The other bit of testing we do is we work with browser and extensions. So you could work with Google Lighthouse and run an accessibility testing. You can install a Wave extension, and this helps you a lot with finding minor issues and get a feeling for how inaccessible your platform is. And as you see, we set all these cases to fail because for everything we found something that does not work, and compliance means you actually do everything right. So we're keep working on this. We found a big a big drawback in tabability from ILIAS 5.4 to ILIAS 6. So ILIAS 5.4 was nicely tabbable. Also, the sequence of tabs made sense. And now with ILIAS 6, it got a lot worse. We test to enlarge the screen and check if something breaks by that. We work on specific issues like video and audio and how easily the controls are accessible with assistive technology. This is very important. And that's a bit a mixed bag here, but we're working on it. The the truth of the pudding lies in the eating. So we had a blind person testing ILIAS. Dr. Steffen Pohl of University of Gießen tested on March 9th. We were testing a lot later than we wished to, but in the last part of 19, ILIAS 6 was moving so fast and broken so often that we couldn't test with the screen reader. And then the University of Gießen had an issue, was attacked by criminals and went into a shutdown. So we just started testing on March 9th. And we got sobering results of this first test. So we figured that the main bar and the meta bar were not accessible at all. We couldn't tap into the slate, and the slate was not perceivable as perceptible as at all to a screen reader. And after that, I'm glad to say everybody started scrambling for bug fixing immediately and keeps pulling at it. So we're working on this to make these improvements to get tabability and perceptibility for screen readers up. And this is also required because we will do a WCAG 2.1 AA compliance testing with ILIAS 6 starting next week. And so we'll be glad for all the fixes that we can get into the trunk until that point in time, and maybe we'll cherry pick some of the suggested fixes before delivering a dedicated testing platform to a specialist agency. And then we'll sit back and wait for results. There will be a senior accessibility tester putting 40 hours of testing work into it, preparing a report for us, and then hold a workshop for developers to refer his results and to advise us on how to maybe fix this. And so, yeah, I'll be reporting on the results soon. Over summer, we should get a much better knowledge. We have this, what is called now Entwicklungsbegleitender BITV 2.0 test. And this means we test while developing, and we will have another certifying test after hopefully fixing those persisting issues, or at least parts of them. And so this is where we are at, the status, and this is the way forward. So to we're looking forward to getting the main bar and the meta bar accessible, and then having a compliance testing. I'll look at the questions if there are any now. Please post them, and otherwise I would hand back to who's next. I'm not sure about that. API alignment. Break. Okay, if nobody has any questions, then I thank you very much for your attention. Stay safe.